Hi, everybody. I'm here with the miserable liberal and Graham Elwood, the political vigilante. Check out Graham's show on YouTube. Guess what? So the Democratic Party, they cheated the country out of a progressive president, Bernie Sanders. They literally cheated. They lied repeatedly. They gaslighted half their own party. They rigged the system so they could give us a corporatist that no one wanted. A corporatist warmonger that no one wanted. They then, after the progressive got screwed out of the primary, they then moved to the right and picked Tim Kaine, who's to the right of that corporatist warmonger, to be the vice president. Again, sticking their thumb in the eye of the base. They then lose to Donnie Tynahan's game show host. They immediately start screaming about Jill Stein, start screaming about Bernie Bros, start screaming about everyone else because Hillary Clinton is entitled to your fucking vote. I don't know if you know that. Hillary Clinton is the only politician in the history of the world who wasn't expected to get votes by campaigning. She's the only one in the world, ever. Only politician who was not expected to have to campaign to get votes. She's owed your votes. You didn't vote for her? Then you're a baby. You're a child. Look how fucking stupid that sounds. I know grown-up people who said that on fucking camera. Grown-ups said that. Sounds so stupid me just saying that, right? Yes. So the Democratic Party moved to the right. They then moved to the right, even further right, when the DNC decided to start taking corporate lobbyist money. So they got even more corrupt. Then they screwed over a progressive, Keith Ellison, out of the chairmanship. They got his mind right. Now he runs around holding hands with them because I don't know what they promised him. So they had the lowest fundraising months since the start of the Iraq War. The Democratic Party. The worst fundraising months since 2003. And I predicted, everybody said, oh, that lawsuit's frivolous in Florida. It's frivolous, which is an establishment talking point, because it's not frivolous, because what happened was the DNC lawyer admitted in open court that they run crooked primaries and that they don't have to run a fair primary. And I said, that's a hell of a fundraising slogan. Give us your money. We don't have to run a fair primary. Boo. And guess what happened? They had the two worst fucking fundraising months in a row. April and May. The party now just killed single payer in California. Oh, after that, they overrode the will of the people in California, literally. And the people wanted Kimberly Ellis, who's a progressive, to be the chairman of the Democratic Party. They literally cheated again, rigged the system, and installed literally a pharmaceutical lobbyist is now the chair of the Democratic Party in California. A pharmaceutical lobbyist who lobbied against Bernie's bill for cheaper drugs last year and beat Bernie. That's who's the chair of the Democratic Party. Now they just got another guy to kill single payer. Another Democrat killed single payer in the California Assembly. Just did it yesterday. So the Democratic Party is in shambles. In shambles. 80% of the party is favor of Bernie Sanders. The rest of the party has a TV show somewhere on MSNBC or CNN or writes for the Washington Post or the New York Times, because the country loves Bernie Sanders, and especially the Democratic Party. But you'll never see that reflected back in corporate media, ever. So the Democratic Party is a complete wreck, except they're not, because they get to keep their corporate lobbyist money, which is what they want in the first place. So Julian Assange has written this. Why the Democratic Party is doomed, and they are fucking doomed. The Democratic establishment has vortexed the party's narrative energy into hysteria about Russia, a state with a lower GDP than South Korea. I already reminded people, Trump recommended spending another $55 billion on missiles on top of what we already spend. Do you know that's the total what Russia spends on their fucking defense? Total. Somewhere between $55 and $65 billion a year. And you wonder why they have single payer in Russia? They have a GDP lower than South Korea. And this is the country that MSNBC and the Democratic Party and Washington Post and the New York Times has the entire country. They're trying to make the entire country shit their pants over a country with a lower GDP than South Korea. Isn't that amazing?
It's the only thing that makes sense to me with the Russia thing is it's the military-industrial complex
Exactly, Graham.
We need another Cold War. Mm-hmm. So we need to make Russia back into the big bad Soviet Union that, and we need to be toe to toe with them, dollar for dollar in the nukes, and it's unbelievable. We spend more on military than the next 7 countries combined.
Last time I checked, it was 13, but that number does fluctuate.
Sure. Okay.
I like to say we spend most on the rest of the world combined, even though it's not accurate.
Right.
I like to say that.
But I mean, this is what the Democratic Party does. If I'm not mistaken, isn't Kimberly Ellison I heard she gave an interview and she flew down and they 2 women threatened her.
So I heard that interview. I'm going to play it. They did. So she had lunch with 2 people who were Democrats in the party, and according to her in that interview, they literally threatened her.
Yeah.
They threatened to kill her career. Mm-hmm. So that's another video. Here's Julian Assange. The Democratic Party establishment has vortexed the party's narrative energy into hysteria about Russia, a state with a lower GDP than South Korea. It is starkly obvious that were it not for this hysteria, insurgent narratives of the type promoted by Bernie Sanders would rapidly dominate the party's base and its relationship with the public. So what he's saying is that in order for Bernie's message to not sink in and take over because it's super popular, the corporate Democrats have made a concerted effort to change the narrative into Russia, 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 Russia. Hey, there's another country trying to take us over. We got a traitor in the what? So that's what he's saying. And that's why they're doing this, because if they didn't, we'd all be talking about Bernie Sanders' plan. And we're not. So it's working. Without the "we didn't lose, Russia won" narrative, the party's elite and those who exist under its patronage would be purged for being electorally incompetent and ideologically passé. Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen after the election. That we would get rid of those corporate Democrats because obviously the majority of people in the Democratic Party now is progressive, especially the future of the party, people 35, 40 and under. Hillary's support came from old people already on Medicare. So the collapse of the Democratic vote over the last 8 years is at every level. City, state, congressional, and presidential. Yeah, it's just not. So you can talk about Russia all you want about the president. What did Russia hack into the 1,000 state seats? Did Russia hack into the governorships? Because they're lost. Did they do that? Did they hack into the congressional races? Did Russia hack into the Senate races? It corresponds to the domination of democratic decision-making structures by a professional service class and to a shocking decline in the health and longevity of white males, whom together with their wives, daughters, mothers, and sisters comprise 63% of the U.S. population. Democratic campaigns have conspicuously promoted racial and sexual identity politics for everyone but whites and males. This delineated and alienated white and male identity grievance classes, pushing these majorities into the arms of the GOP dog, racial, and sexual dog whistling. 53% of all men voted for Trump, 53% of white women, and 63% of white men, according to Pew Research, voted for Trump. Unlike other industrialized countries, U.S. male real wages, all ethnic groups combined, have not had an increase since 1973. But I'm sure it's Russia. That's the real problem. Not that workers haven't had a raise since 1973. But I'm sure Russia's the problem. 2, he says, the Trump-Russia collusion narrative is a political dead end. Despite vast resources, enormous incentives, and a year of investigation, Democratic senators who have seen the classified intelligence at CIA headquarters, such as Senator Feinstein, as recently as March, are forced to admit that there is no evidence of collusion.
I know that you and some of your colleagues from the Senate Intelligence Committee drove over to Langley, Virginia yesterday to CIA headquarters, and you were briefed. Here's the question. And you don't have to provide us with any classified information, Senator. But do you have evidence that there was in fact collusion between Trump associates and Russia during the campaign?
Not at this time.
Well, that's troubling, is what Wolf was just about to say, I'm sure. Well, that's troubling. It's been a fucking year. People are ready to go to war. So that was in March. Without collusion, we are left with the Democratic establishment blaming the public for not liking the truth about what Hillary Clinton said to Goldman Sachs, and blaming their own base for not liking what they said in their own emails about fixing the DNC primaries. So that's what their strategy was, to get us to talk about how the information came out, that they're completely corrupt and are screwing over their own people and their own party and the country, and they're cheaters and liars. They don't want us to talk about what the emails revealed. They want to talk about everything else but that, and people are doing it. That's what he's saying. So without collusion, we are left with the Democratic establishment blaming the public for not liking the truth. So if they didn't have this bullshit Russia narrative, they'd have to still be blaming the public, which is what they do. Obama went to Italy and blamed the people in America, the voters. The voters he blamed. The Democratic establishment needs the support of the security sector and media barons to push this diversionary conspiracy agenda, so they ingratiate themselves with the two classes, leading to further perceptions that the Democrats act on behalf of an entrenched power elite. That is 100% accurate. They ingratiate themselves with these two classes, leading to further perception that the Democrats act on behalf of an entrenched power elite. Eventually, Trump or Pence will merge with the security state, leaving Democrats in a vulnerable position. Yeah, so eventually the CIA and the FBI are going to get together with the administration because they work for them. They're supposed to.
You mean Trump and Pence work for the CIA and the FBI, right?
That's what I meant. Yes. So they leaving the Democrats in a vulnerable position, having talked up too deeply unaccountable, traditionally Republican-aligned organizations. So when the Democrats keep puffing up the CIA and the FBI, those are organizations that normally are aligned with the Republicans and the right's agenda. The FBI doesn't like civil rights. They don't like protesters. They don't like agitators. They don't like whistleblowers. And so now that the Democrats have puffed up the CIA and the FBI, now when Trump merges with them, he's saying it's going to cause a lot of problems for the Democrats. Because those organizations, the CIA and the FBI in particular, will be turned against the Democrats. Other than domestic diversion and geopolitical destabilization, the primary result of the Russian narrative is increased influence and funding for the security sector, which is primarily GOP-owned and aligned. So he's pointing out that this is long-term horrible for the Democrats. They're so myopic and they're so craven that they don't give a shit. They're just like Wall Street. You know this is all going to lead to a crash. Yeah, but right now we're making a lot of money. And that's what the Democrats are. The twin result is to place the primary self-interest concerns of most Americans, class competition, freedom from crime and ill health, and the empowerment of their children into the shadows, and project the Democrats as close to the DC and media elites. This has further cemented Trump's anti-establishment positioning. So what he's pointing out is that the more the Democrats and the media do this, get in bed with the FBI and the CIA and prop them up and push this narrative, it ensconces Trump as the anti-establishment politician in his supporters' eyes. Because guess what he is? And the Democrats are the establishment, the corrupt to the teeth establishment. This has further cemented Trump's anti-establishment positioning and fettered attacks on Trump's runaway embrace of robber barons, dictators, and gravitas-free buffoons like the CIA's Mike Pompeo. GOP Trump has open goals everywhere. This is his fifth point of why the Democratic Party is destroyed. GOP Trump has open goals everywhere. Broken promises, inequality, economy, healthcare, militarization, Goldman Sachs, Saudi Arabian cronyism. But the Democrat establishment can't kick these goals since the Russian collusion narrative has consumed all of its energy. And it is entangled with many of the same groups behind Trump policies. 6, the Democratic base should move to start a new party. Since the party elite shows no sign that they will give up power, this can be done quickly and cheaply as a result of the internet and databases of people's political preferences. I'm with him on this. This reality is proven in practice with the rapid construction of the Macron, Sanders, and Trump campaigns from nothing. So people keep saying you can't do a third party. He's pointing out that Trump was nowhere. He had no campaign, had no organization. He was never a politician before. He had no ground game. He still won. Why? Because people are dying for anti-establishment politicians like Bernie Sanders, like Trump. And he's saying in France, like Macron, how do you say his name? Is that how you say it?
Macron. Maybe.
Macron. The existing Democratic Party may well have negative reputational capital, stimulating a Macron-style clean slate approach. Yes. Regardless, in the face of such a threat, the Democratic establishment will either concede control or, in the case of Macron, be eliminated by the new structure. And that's what we're looking for. And we want to get rid of the Donna Brazils, the Diratandas, the John Podestas, the Tom Perez's, the Chuck Schumers, the Nancy Pelosi's. We got to get rid of those people because they're the problem. Over to you, Miserable and Graham. Anything to say?
I think the Democrats have already conceded control. I think
to the corporatists.
Yes.
That's the problem.
They don't believe in anything that we have thought that the Democratic Party believed in. Now they just believe in corporations. Now they don't reflect any of our values. And I still don't understand why Bernie Sanders didn't completely break away from them. I don't understand.
Fear, baby. He's fear. He didn't want to end up like Ralph Nader. That's a quote. That's a direct quote, and that's why he did it. So, not to beat up on Bernie Sanders, right? He did a lot of stuff that I couldn't do, and I probably wouldn't have the nads to do. So, God bless him. And he's been doing it his entire career. He handcuffed himself. He got arrested. He's been an independent. So, the fact that he didn't also be a super duper hero and just a superhero is okay with me, Graham.
Well, I was going to say, I agree. I think Stephanie's right. The Democrats are done. I mean, people are still trying to hold out hope. I don't know. Because if you look at what Trump and what Bernie did, they did very similar things with different fashions. Obviously, I don't like Trump at all. He's racist and xenophobic and is sexist and all this, but he blew up the Republican Party. People forget that.
Yes.
He came into their primary and destroyed them. Jeb Bush, that's their power, man.
Ted Cruz, Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, sitting senators, crushed them.
Crushed them. He just came in and blew them up. He blew up those.
John Kasich, a governor, former congressman. He just blew these guys away.
He called out Jeb Bush's dad for 9/11.
For 9/11!
In a debate. That's like sacrosanct. You can't do that. He did it, and he won. And I don't like how he did it, and I don't like what he tapped into, but look what he tapped into. And I think Bernie Sanders, both Trump and Sanders tapped into this underlying, we're tired of the establishment. And it resonates in different corners of the country, and they use very, very different tactics. Sanders had a very positive message. Trump was very negative and xenophobic and all that stuff. But the Democrats refuse. They've painted themselves into a corner, and they cannot get out of it. Their whole thing is funded by the big corporations. So the progressives are a threat. I mean, the progressives might as well be another party because that's how they're treated and that's how they're viewed, because they are a direct threat to the hundreds of millions, if not more, dollars that come into the Democratic Party.
So if we had a progressive party, if we did this, if Bernie Sanders broke away and made a third party, and let's say he only got 15% of the vote, guess what? The Democrats now have to come to him to form a government.
Yeah.
That's why. They have to now come to him unless they go to Republicans, which is what they did last time and lost. So now we need a third party, and that's just I know the system isn't set up that way and all that shit. We have to do it. President Lincoln was a third party. They were a regional party, and he became president. And then guess what? The Whigs went away.
And I think, too, if Bernie Sanders formed a third party and he came in with a progressive populist message, he's going to pull away some Trump people. Not the fanatic racists.
No doubt about it.
Not the Klan people, but the working class people who are like, yeah, I think Trump is a jackass, but I'll rather vote for him than the other. The people that did that, if Bernie Sanders came in and said, I got jobs for you, I got $15 an hour for you, I got health care for you, they'd go, okay, I'll give you a shot, man. I'll back off my whatever, my homophobia or whatever my problem is, because you're actually going to talk with some solutions to my daily life. And that's what we need.
Yes, there's a lot of people who voted for Trump who would rather have voted for Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
I know that for a fact. So you're correct. And Julian Assange nails it 100%. He sees exactly because he knows where the WikiLeaks emails came from. He knows. So he knows exactly that the Democrats are doing this, just like I sniffed out a long time ago. And now the mainstream news media is coming around. Look at our other videos. They're coming around to, hey, it's kind of effed up that there's no evidence, isn't it? We live in a surveillance state, and it's been a year. What are you guys waiting for? Democrats are dead. Hey, the next live Jimmy Dore show is July 17th. That's right, July 17th. That's a Monday in Burbank, California. Get your tickets right down here or go to jimmydorecomedy.com. July 17th, Burbank, California, live Jimmy Dore show.